live on Twitter and YouTube. We're back. It's been a couple weeks hiatus. It's been a couple weeks since we've all been here, and we had the whole dog ate our homework excuse from Josh this week, except it was
Yeah.
a computer charger.
Yeah.
I do feel for the kid. I can see it in my peripheral. I can see his dog Jaeger chewing on it and him coming in and realizing it and being pissed off. Nevertheless,
Yep.
Bradley Davis and I are here. We're gonna do the things a little bit different this week. We're gonna start off with our pick five, and then we're gonna expand from there and kind of rapid fire each of these games. Brad, what have the last 2 weeks in the NFL have been pretty exciting. I think the emergence of C.J. Stroud has been a big topic. Deshaun Watson going out. We're basically at the halfway point of the season. Anything you're looking for this week in the immediate future, the next few weeks that you think we might see?
A lot of divisions are going to start, getting a little bit tighter. Especially tonight, we have the Ravens and Bengals playing, so that's going to be a very key divisional game. A lot of divisional games coming up here soon. They're going to be pretty important. I know, for my Saints, we're on a bye this week, but then we come off the bye and play Atlanta. This week the Browns and Steelers play, so that's going to be a pretty big divisional game. Just super excited to see how this all wraps up this year because right now, a lot of divisions, it's not like the Chiefs division where they're like miles ahead and no one's going to come after them. There's some divisions that's starting to tighten up a little bit. So I think that's the biggest thing is who's going to win a lot of these divisions now that there's more competition coming into play.
Without further ado, we will hit the pick five right away. Josh and I have kind of stayed steady. My man Brad has got to pick it up a little bit with his locks. It's not been
ugly,
very good on the lock front. Losing 2 points every week will kill you in this competition. I currently have a 1.5 point lead on Josh, even though he has a half game better record than me. But let's go ahead and get down to business. Since Josh is not here, we will go ahead and do his first. So Josh has a play tonight. He is playing Baltimore -3.5. That is pick number 1. Pick number 2 is the Chicago Bears +7.5 at Martha Firestorm Ford's house in Detroit. His pick number 3, there will be a lock fight for this. He is taking the Green Bay Packers in the points at home against the Chargers +3. His lock, I think this is a dangerous lock. I wish he was on here to talk about it, but his lock, Jacksonville -7 against the Tennessee Titans. His upset, and I'm very surprised because this is his favorite team to kind of slander, the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Oh, okay.
Upset. So Josh has Baltimore. I mean, he's going heavy Northern divisions, 2 AFC North teams, 2 NFC North teams. Baltimore -3.5, Chicago +7.5, Green Bay +3, Jacksonville -7, and Pittsburgh. Now for me, the leader in the clubhouse, I am lock fighting Josh on Green Bay. I am taking the Chargers. I have backed this Green Bay team too many times this season. I have begged for them to show me something all season long. I backed them against the Steelers. I backed them against the Falcons. I backed them against the Lions. Lost all of those. I just simply cannot do it anymore. This is a back against the wall game for Brandon Staley and company. And I think they have no choice but to go into Lambeau and do something there. And I think they will. Pick number 2. I think 13.5 is a lot of points for Miami at home against the Las Vegas Raiders, even though I do think if I had to lean, I do think they would probably cover that number. I'm going to play it safe. They are a juggernaut at home, and I'm going to take Miami team total over 29.5 as my second pick. My third pick, the Josh Dobbs story has been great. The Josh Dobbs story has taken the NFL by storm. The Pastronaut is here, and he looks like he's here to stay. However, I have become a believer in Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos, and I think this line is too short. Give me the Denver Broncos -2 on Sunday Night Football at home against the Minnesota Vikings. My lock. They were my upset last week, and it is by far and away my favorite pick of the week. I'm going to bet it on Sunday. You got to give me Kyler Murray once again on the road at the Houston Texans. I think 5.5 points is way too many. You look at Houston, they lost to Carolina. They played pretty poorly on defense against Tampa Bay. They have lost to the Colts. I would not put it past them to lose this game outright as well. I mean, they've looked very good in the last 2 weeks and have played up to their competition. And Stroud is balling. Don't get me wrong, but I just think it's too many points. Give me Arizona +5.5. And then my upset, Brad Davis' second favorite team, the LA Rams.
Oh, the Rams. The Rams. Hey,
the LA Rams.
What a surprise.
I think
but I like it.
I think they're a bad matchup for Seattle. We saw that in the second half at Lumen Field earlier this season. A fully healthy Stafford, as you alluded to earlier this week in the group chat, could be a problem for Seattle's defense. So Chargers, Miami team total over, Broncos, Cardinals, and Rams. Brad, the floor is yours.
Me and Josh are going to have 2 lock battles going on here because my first one is Chargers -3. The Packers have not shown me anything competitive wise to keep up with the Chargers. Now listen, the Chargers haven't played all that great this year, but I think in terms of their offensive power, they by far outweigh Green Bay. Green Bay, like I said, hasn't really shown anything to me this year. I don't think it really matters if they're at home. I don't think it matters if it's November and it's going to get a little bit cold. Give me the Chargers -3. Justin Herbert's been playing sensational. Keenan Allen's been playing out of his mind. Eckler, he's starting to get back into his own form. Give me the Chargers -3. Kind of a spicy one right here. Give me Giants team total points under 13.5. They have not shown me anything. They've not shown me anything offensively to suggest that they'll be able to put up 2 touchdowns. So
they did last week?
Yeah. They did last week, but not this week. It ain't gonna happen this week. Listen, the Commanders defensively have been kind of up and down, and they have lost a lot of key players, especially on the defensive line. But I think what happens is the Commanders come out here, their offense has been playing pretty well. I think they kind of get a big lead, and it just becomes a game of trying to catch up, but you don't have a quarterback or an offense that can catch up being down quite a bit. So I don't think anyone's a believer in the Giants right now. They're kind of, working their way to potentially get the first overall pick. And I don't really see that much happening for them this week against the Commanders. So give me the Giants under 13.5. Another under I'm going to play. Lions Bears under 47.5. Divisional game, tend to always be super competitive. Justin Fields is coming back, which, could either be very favorable in the Bears, where, Josh has them at +7.5, or it could be disastrous for them in terms of Fields coming back and not really playing the way that he should be. Especially, he's missed quite a few weeks, so there's definitely going to be some kind of regression in his play given the time that he's missed. So, in Detroit, they are a team that can put up a lot of points, but they kind of been up and down with it. 1 week they'll put up like 38, and the next week they'll put up like 20 points. So, they put up, quite a few points last week with 38. I just don't really see them putting up that many points. And Chicago's defense is pretty bad, but Detroit's offense, like I said, it's been kind of up and down in terms of their total points. So give me the Bears and Lions under. My lock is going to be the Bengals +3.5. I've
Plus
been
4. I can get you plus 4.
+4. Okay, I love it. I love it. This game, I've been back and forth with it all week. We've been talking about it
Yep.
in the group chat. I think everyone's kind of just like, we don't know. I think Josh has been the only consistent one that's, like Ravens, Ravens, Ravens. And I really want to pick Baltimore. Like I really do. But I think this game is more important to Cincinnati than it is to Baltimore because if Cincinnati loses this game, they're talking about completely being out of the division race and starting to look at can we even make the wild card. And
Yeah.
they while they've beaten the Bills, now the Texans are starting to come up as a wild card potential, and they lost to them last week. So I feel like this is a game that Cincinnati desperately needs to get back into the hunt in their own division, especially with Cleveland losing Deshaun Watson. I think they can kind of see this as an opportunity to get back into the race. With the competition at the quarterback position in Cleveland being a little bit less stellar right now. So yeah, I'm really liking Baltimore, but I lean Cincinnati a little bit more given the circumstances right now. And my upset, me and Josh are going with the same upset. Give me the Pittsburgh Steelers. Um, I think they. I mean, even with Deshaun Watson, second game of the year, they came in there and beat the Browns. Um, it was at Pittsburgh, right? The first game was at Pittsburgh, correct?
Yes, it was.
Yeah. So right now I think this is a Cleveland team that's I mean Deshaun Watson has missed a lot of time this year, but I think they see that now, and I think that Pittsburgh's been kind of on a big roll right now. They're surprisingly, I thought Pittsburgh going into the year would be competitive enough to potentially maybe clinch a wild card berth. But I mean, they're in the thick of it in terms of maybe potentially winning this division if they keep it up. I mean, they have a lot of division. I know it sounds crazy, but go look at the division wins. I think they're like 3-0 right now
Yeah.
in the division. For some reason, they just keep on winning. I don't get it. No one gets it. But I think this week they end up beating the Cleveland Browns, and I think they start really getting into the thick of hey, can we win this division? Especially if the Ravens lose tonight.
Yeah. No, I absolutely. Um, let's I mean, we can hop right into that game, but before we hop, that's the first game that we're going to talk about right after we quickly hit this one because this one's kicking off in about 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Looking to see, people are talking a lot about Keaton Mitchell getting involved big time in this game tonight. I do think that Baltimore is going to deploy 4 different guys running the football. You're going to see Justice Hill, you're going to see Gus Edwards, you're going to see Keaton Mitchell, and you're obviously going to see Lamar Jackson run the ball as well. If they can control this game running the football, I do think that Baltimore is the side, but man, it's dangerous. They seem to lull themselves to sleep at times. Like they'll explode on offense for a few possessions in a row, and then all of a sudden they can just fall off for a few possessions in a row. And that's what we saw last week against the Cleveland Browns. Or it could be a situation like the Seattle game or the Detroit game where it's just a boat race from beginning to end. Um, I I do think Cincinnati's back is against the wall here, though, without a doubt, because they're going to fall into Buffalo Bills territory, Brad, at 5-5 if they don't win
Yeah.
tonight.
Yeah. I mean, and especially last week, I thought it was kind of a game that they should have won against the Texans. But ultimately, they let the Texans just come in there and kind of do whatever they wanted to them. Baltimore, they're coming off a pretty tough loss too against the Browns. And, in a very key divisional game too that they lost. So I think ultimately both teams' backs are against the wall, but I think Cincinnati's is a little bit further back because right now they're sitting at 5-4, and if they were to lose, they're sitting at 5-5, and that becomes more of a hole that they had to dig themselves out of because all of a sudden wild card playoff berth is becoming a little bit more competitive now with the Texans, kind of getting involved. And I mean, hell, I hate to say it, but I don't think ultimately this team is going to be in that conversation. But I mean, the Raiders, they're 5-5 right now somehow. The Broncos are starting to come back and win a few games. I mean, they're on a 3-game winning streak right
Yeah,
now against some pretty
3
tough
wins in a row.
competition. Yeah, so I mean,
Mhm.
I think ultimately Baltimore is looking at this game and like they I feel like this is like kind of a must-win game for them if they want to kind of
Absolutely.
ahead get ahead in terms of the wild cards seeding and even in terms of them staying competitive in their own division to possibly win it.
And, this would almost put, I wouldn't say a dagger because obviously Cleveland and Pittsburgh have head-to-head wins with Baltimore right
Mhm.
now, but it would certainly go a long way to get the division if Baltimore wins tonight. The
Yeah.
other game in this division this week, Pittsburgh and Cleveland. Cleveland's still a short favorite at home, despite Dorian Thompson-Robinson getting the start for the Browns. Now, I saw a stat today that is absolutely insane, and I'm going to read it. And it'll take a second to think about it because this is the lowest total of the season. 33 is the total.
Yeah.
It's Kenny Pickett. It's Kenny Pickett against Dorian Thompson-Robinson. I mean, make no mistake about it. The Pittsburgh scored a bunch of points against Cleveland in week 2, but they
Yeah.
had negative yards. They had negative yards in the fourth quarter and scored 14 points. They had negative
Oh,
yards
Jesus.
and
I
scored
mean,
2
that came off a lot
touchdowns.
of defensive touchdowns because didn't they have like 2 in that game, I
Yeah,
feel like?
2, I
Yeah.
believe. But one of them was the
Yeah.
first play of the game.
Yeah. Yeah. Because what wasn't that pick
Um,
six, I believe? Yeah, I think
yeah,
it was. Yeah, I was at the Saints game that I was like watching the Saints game. They would take a commercial break. I'd go right to the Steelers and Browns game.
yeah.
Yeah, I think ultimately this game comes down to which offense is going to make the play to win the game, or even special teams. I honestly, any kind of facet of the game, which team is going to make the play to win the game.
Mhm.
Especially with Deshaun Watson out. I know we've talked about it pretty extensively about Watson's play. It's been very up and down, throughout this season and honestly throughout his whole career right now in Cleveland. Um, so I don't know. I love Pittsburgh in this game just because they're a little bit more healthier. I think they're having a pretty crazy year given that their offense really hasn't been very very lackluster. But we've talked about it. They've been finding ways to win. And against a Cleveland team that right now doesn't have their starting quarterback, DTR, he had one start and didn't really play all that well. I think Pittsburgh's defense is a little bit underrated. But I mean, also Cleveland's defense is really good too. So you got to factor that in. But the under at 33, I might sound crazy. I
Whew,
kind of like it. I kind of like it.
whew. Here's the crazy stat of the day, and this kind of builds off why I like Cleveland. First of all, DTR in the first game that he started, he didn't know he was starting until the morning of the game.
Yeah, that is right.
And
That is
against
correct.
Baltimore, he didn't know he didn't get any first team reps all week. He's been getting first team reps all week this week. This stat is insane. So try to follow along. Since 2003, there have been 33 games with divisional matchups with a total of 34 or less.
You said
So
8
since
games.
2003, last 20 seasons, there have been 33 games since 2003 with a total of 34 or less between games of divisional opponents. The home team is 25-8 in those 33 games.
Oh shit.
And the last time we had this situation, divisional game, total under 34 in the last 20 years, it was, sure enough, the Browns and the Steelers in 2012,
Oh wow.
where Brandon Weeden led the Browns to victory 20 to
Holy
14
shit.
against
Ooh.
against Ben Roethlisberger and the Steelers, thanks to 8 turnovers by the Steelers. 8.
Listen, I mean, Brandon Whedon, dude. That's a name I haven't heard in a very long time, dude.
A Brandon Whedon
Um,
victory, bro.
I mean, listen, I mean, Kenny Pickett, he has shown that he can turn the ball over, quite a lot in games. So I mean, and like I said, Cleveland's defense is really good. They're really good. I don't know. I
One of the
think right
best.
now Cleveland just kind of down on themselves. I know they had the huge win against the Ravens this past week, but I think that was more so the Ravens, shortcomings of their own self compared to Cleveland actually, because I mean, like what that game at one point was like what, like 31 to like 10 or something like that.
17.
I feel like, yeah. So like,
31-17.
yeah. So the Ravens, they've kind of let teams come back on them when they shouldn't. But I don't know. I just like Pittsburgh in this game. I don't know. It's kind of just more of a gut feeling and more of a riding the high right now with Pittsburgh. They just find ways to win.
Huge game for both teams as we head down to South Beach, where the Dolphins are laying 2 touchdowns, nearly 13.5. This spread opened at 10, and money has just flowed in on the Miami Dolphins. Total at 46.5. My team total for the Miami Dolphins is in my pick 5 at 30.5. So obviously that would or 29.5. So that would indicate, the Raiders are expected to score about 16-ish. That offense did not really inspire me last Sunday against the Jets. Scored 1 touchdown, kicked 3 field goals, and got helped out by a lot of Jet penalties. CJ Uzama holding twice. Michael Carter with a crackback block. There were, the Raiders had no business winning that game. And now they have to travel to Miami, where they have been lights out at home. They obviously hung 70. They've hung 40 multiple times at home. I do think Miami covers this number. I'm not confident enough to bet it just because I do think Antonio Pierce has these guys playing for him and playing very well. But I can see Miami getting a couple of takeaways and stretching this lead. I kind of lean as crazy as it sounds, with me liking the team total over, I kind of lean the under. I just don't think I don't see how Las Vegas is going to score.
No, but I mean, hell, Miami might hang for
Cover it by themselves. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I like we talked about before the podcast started. I think this is kind of a get back to form game for Miami. They've had 2 games in a row where they've kind of been struggling to get that identity back that they've had, throughout the year in terms of being a very explosive offense. I think this is a perfect game to do it against a, Raiders defense that really isn't all that great, especially against the run, which, Miami's going to be getting A-Chain back. So that's a, huge weapon for them to get back on the offensive side. Tua is still playing really good, even though, he had some pretty, let down games these past two games for the Dolphins. And I mean, right now, I feel like the Dolphins' defense is kind of starting to step up a little bit and play really good. I've liked what I've seen from them. Even some of the missteps that they've had defensively, I still like where they're at right now, and I think they continue to get a little bit better each week. So yeah, I'm with you. I think the Dolphins. I would go as far as say I think the Dolphins cover this very easily. I could see them getting up very early. Maybe like a 28 to 3 lead or something like that. Going to the half, kick a couple field goals, and then walk out there with a win. But I don't know. I mean, hell, yeah, like I said, I could see the Dolphins maybe even covering the over just by themselves. But yeah, I'm liking Miami. Yeah. Which sounds crazy, but I mean they've scored, hell, we've seen them put up 70 points against the Broncos. So like I don't think it's, kind of crazy to think that they could do it by themselves. And the Raiders right now, they are on a 2-game win streak, but they played some very poor competition. And ultimately I think that kind of just comes to an end. But yeah, I'm loving Miami in this game. I don't think there's any question about it.
To my best bet of the week. You can get it at 5.5 at BetMGM right now. I'm telling you, man, take the Cardinals. Take the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah.
I think this is a different team with Kyler in the lineup. I think Kyler is also playing for his job. I think Kyler is playing for his job in a sense that, but at this point, though, I think it's a done deal that Arizona is not going to have the number one pick. Arizona can win games trying to lose all they want. The Giants have a high school offense. Like
they do,
the
dude.
Giants,
big five.
yeah, the team total under.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was an easy one last week as far as I laid the points with Dallas last week, and that was absolutely, even when they got stopped at the 5-yard line on their first drive, it was absolutely never in doubt. Regardless, I think Arizona's going to fuck around and win a few games going forward. I don't know if they win this game outright, and we should give so much credit to CJ Stroud. I don't know if I've seen a rookie play this well ever. Have you?
Maybe Justin Herbert. His rookie year was very good. He was really good his rookie year.
Yes, he was.
But I mean, he's Shroud's playing out of his mind right now. I mean, when Herbert came in, we weren't really having discussions of him in like the MVP conversation. And right now we're sitting here talking about Shroud potentially being the favorite in the MVP conversation.
Well, I think we need to pump the brakes on that a little bit. I don't know about MVP.
I mean, here's the thing. If he keeps on playing the way that he has been, I mean, he's on track to have he's on track to have 4 interceptions for the whole year and have like 30 plus touchdowns. Like, if that happens and he gets the Houston Texans to the playoffs and maybe fucks around and wins a playoff game,
oh man,
at that point, I don't see how you don't have him as like one of your favorites.
And they have cap space.
Exactly, dude. Space. And they have draft picks. Like they're going to be set up to be in a division too that we thought the Jags were kind of going to comfortably handily win that division. Now we're potentially talking about could the Texans potentially get into that conversation of winning the division too. But this game, I kind of am with you a little bit. I kind of lean towards Arizona. Arizona's kind of one of those feisty teams that just somehow, some way stays into these games that they shouldn't be, and usually sometimes win them. A lot of their wins have come in games where you go, I don't like going into the game, like, I don't know if they're going to win this game. I don't know if they're really going to be staying competitive. And they do. Somehow they do. I think everyone right now is looking at the Texans and kind of riding high on their wave with, like we said, with Stroud playing very well, with the defense, kind of coming into their own. But I think, Kyler brings a different dimension to the offense that, now listen, Josh Dobbs played really well for what he was, working with in Arizona. But I think Kyler gives them just a little bit more offensively for them to kind of stay competitive in some of these games. So, and, James Conner, he's back. So, that's another, weapon. And I mean, hell, they're fucking tight end. McBride, I think that's his name.
Trey McBride, Colorado State.
Yeah, he's starting to come into his own. He's starting to look pretty good. So, I think the same thing. I think it's different because right now the Texans are winning, and we can look at it and go like, wow, they got all this cap space, they got all these draft picks, But I think it's the same thing with the Cardinals, where they have a lot of draft capital. They have some young key players in positions that I think are starting to thrive a little bit. And, they're, in a lot of, in most of these games, they're kind of staying competitive with a, first year head coach. So I don't know. I'm kind of leaning with you with Arizona. I kind of like the under on this one. I think 48.5. Well, I said that last week about, the Bengals and Houston game, and that kind of fucked me over. But 48
last
and a half,
Houston unders have been dead quickly.
Yeah, I couldn't take the under on this game, but I would kind of lean towards the under. but I wouldn't be surprised if this game goes on the over because I think both quarterbacks have the capabilities to score a lot of points.
So, Brad, we are 0-1 on bar fights against Josh. We both had San Francisco last week.
Yeah.
Or we both had Jacksonville last week, and Josh had San Francisco. Yeah. This would be bar fight number 2, where we are on the Chargers and he is on the Packers. I laid it out when talking about the pick 5. I simply cannot get behind Green Bay anymore. Like,
I can't either.
I just can't. I just can't, bro. Like, they have a lot of problems. I mean, without Bakhtiari, that offensive line looks lost. Jordan Love is getting hurried on almost every drop back. And I think Jordan Love played as well as he's played in any game all season last week. He made some great throws last week. He made some great throws against Minnesota 2 weeks ago, too. He's not getting help at all from his wide receivers. And let me say this, too. The Aaron Jones era is over.
It's over.
In Green Bay.
It's got to be over.
He had a wide open screen pass across the field last week that would have gone for at least 40 yards, and he dropped it. Like,
hell, even
all season long.
No, I mean, hell, even A.J. Dillon really hasn't done much either. So, like, their running back room is kind of starting to become a big question, just as much as their receiving room.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you. Like I said in the Pick 5 segment, Green Bay hasn't really shown me anything to be, competitive against. I mean, listen, the Chargers defense really hasn't been all that great this year, but they've had their moments where they have beaten up on pretty bad teams. And I think Green Bay is kind of teetering towards being a pretty bad team. The lack of, weapons on the offensive side for Jordan Love to get some help. The defense has been kind of up and down all year. Going up against the Chargers, offense that's, been clicking very well. Justin Herbert's been playing very well. The Packers just haven't shown me anything to kind of suggest that they're going to be staying competitive in this game. And like I said, I don't care if it's in Lambeau. I don't care if it's going to be super chilly. Give me the Chargers. They're going to be lighting it up.
Agreed.
No pun intended.
I've backed this Green Bay team too many times. It's over. By the way, update, 2 things. Number 1, Mark Andrew. First of all, touchdown Baltimore, Gus Edwards. It is about to be 7-0. However,
I see it on the screen now.
Mark Andrews on 2 plays before went down and left the game.
Oh no!
So that's an important development.
Who placed the bet for Mark Andrews over receptions?
Multiple people, I think, in our chat, and he already had 2 catches. He already had 2 catches on the first drive, and he's hurt and he's down. Yeah,
damn. Because I mistakenly thought that it was at 7.5, and I was like, I would not touch that. But y'all guys said 4.5, and I was like, ooh, it's pretty nice. But damn, that sucks, dude.
Damn. And he was on his way to getting it too.
Damn.
Josh's lock this week: Jacksonville -7. I think that's very dangerous. Here's why. They have not played well at home. They are 2-3 at home. They got their doors blown off by the 49ers last week, who, I mean, as you've heard me say in the last few weeks, I don't know how I could have any confidence in San Francisco. Maybe that was rejuvenated a little bit last week. But Jacksonville got blown out by them. They got blown out by Houston at home. They did absolutely positively nothing against Kansas City at home. I don't know how they lost to Kansas City at home. That game was practically being handed to the Jaguars on a silver platter, and they just could not score in the red zone. And I think
it's a big problem for them all year.
7 is a lot for me. 7 is a lot of points. If it was closer to 4, you'd get me thinking a little bit. But, man, I mean, you talk about Vrabel as a dog. I know Tennessee has been terrible on the road, too. You see that on the screen. They're 0-5 on the road. They really make all their money when they're at home. But I think, Tennessee is a very prideful team. I think Mike Vrabel is a very prideful coach, and I think Will Levis is auditioning to be their guy for the future.
Yeah.
The total feels about right, feels a little sharp at 40.
Yeah.
These teams about combining for about 39 points a game, and the defense is
Yeah.
allowing about 41 points a game. So it feels right in the neighborhood of where it needs to be. But I just, it's a lot like Buffalo. Like, I bet Denver on Monday for the sole reason that, like,
Yeah.
Buffalo should
Yeah.
not be laying a touchdown right now. And
Yeah.
we'll talk
Yeah.
about Buffalo in a little bit, but I just, yeah, I mean, 7 points is too many.
Yeah. I mean, Jacksonville has been kind of an interesting team for me this season because I think going into the season, we kind of all were in agreement that they would be kind of the locks for that division. That, we looked at that division and it was like, hey, there's a lot of teams in that division are kind of rebuilding. Jacksonville kind of looks like, the team that is kind of found their groove and kind of have it all kind of locked down. But so far, they've been kind of up and down quite a bit. I can't really get a good read on them as a team. They're kind of, I mean, just like their whole, team rankings kind of suggest, they've been kind of a middle of the pack team with a winning record. Um, they haven't really, they haven't really done what I thought they would do. Trevor Lawrence, I don't think that gets talked enough about. He hasn't really been doing too much. He's been kind of having, a down year compared to what he did last year. Um, and I mean, yeah, 7 points, dude. That's to me against a division opponent, against a rookie quarterback that you don't really have a lot of tape on. Um, I kind of lean towards Tennessee on this one, especially if they come out early and kind of, establish the run game to where that can open up some, play action opportunities for Levis. But I think ultimately right now Jacksonville just really hasn't really put a lot of confidence in me to pick them as being a 7 point favorite. Like you said, just like with the Bills, they've just been so inconsistent that I can't really get a read on them right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a lot of points for me. I don't feel the same way about this game. I
Yeah.
do understand where Josh is coming from, taking Chicago. Detroit's defense has shown some serious weaknesses, and Justin Fields will be back for this game, and I think he's chomping at the bit to get back. 8 feels like a lot, but as long as they can
Yeah.
shore up what they've been in the red zone, against the Raiders, they were pathetic in the red zone. They were really
Yeah, they
pathetic on the
were.
other side of the 50. They were lucky to cover that number that night. They really were. However, Chicago, the key is going to be turnovers. Like, Chicago
Yeah.
is dead last in the NFL in turnover differential. They turned the ball over 5 times against your Saints a couple of weeks ago. But obviously with T-Bag at quarterback. But now that Fields
Teabag.
I'm kind of sad that experiment is over. But now that Fields is here, an indoor game like this too, like, don't be surprised if the over soars at 48.
Yeah, I don't think so. I talked about it in the pick five a little bit. I have them in my pick five for the under on this game. Division game, Justin Fields is coming back. I don't necessarily think that he'll be up to speed to where he was when, he went down. And like I said, you know, Detroit's offense has been very up and down in terms of points being scored. Like I said, one week they'll put up, 38 points on you. The next week they'll put 20 points up on you. One week they might only put up 3 points against really good competition. That's not going to happen. But you kind of get the gist of it that they're a really good football team. I think they're just a team that can win in any kind of way. If it's a 3 point game, if it's a 10 point game, they've had some ugly losses this year, but I think ultimately, I don't see the over hitting on this game just because Chicago hasn't really been playing all that well. And I don't really trust Justin Fields coming off an injury and kind of coming back to, scoring a lot of points and, putting up monster numbers. But yeah, Detroit -8. I still kind of like that though, just because, like you said, Chicago, they turned the ball over. I do think that had a lot to do with Teabags because he contributed a lot of those turnovers. Um, so I don't see them turning the ball over that much, but I do think that, ultimately that will probably be what, gets Detroit over that 8 point spread is, the troubles of the Chicago team turning the ball over a lot. Oh, hey, you're muted.
Carolina getting 10.5 at home against Dallas. I don't know. I feel like this game is kind of giving the Arizona game vibes a little bit. Can you
No
believe they
way.
lost that game? Looking back, well, dude, they lost
No,
that game.
yeah, they did.
Like,
They did. Trust me, they did. But I don't see that being the case on this one. I just don't. I mean, listen, Carolina, while they are while they don't have a first round pick this upcoming year,
sheesh.
um, I mean, what do they really have to fight for? What I mean, like, I think at this point, I know Frank Wright. I know this week came out and said that they were that he was going to take over play calling duties. So maybe that'll spark something with their offense. But right now, it's just they don't have anything. I mean, offensively, they just don't have anything. And I think
Wide
just like with the
receivers in the
Giants,
offensive line, bad.
I mean, your best like we've talked about, your best receiver is Adam Thielen, and he runs maybe a 6 yard 40, dude, a 640, dude. Like
He's so slow.
6 minute, yeah, he is so slow. It's just like I think this is the same scenario as last week when they played the Giants. It's they no listen. I think Bryce Young's definitely a better quarterback than who they got over there in New York. What's his name?
Tommy
Oh
DeVito.
my god, yeah, Tommy DeVito, dude. I think Bryce Young definitely is a better quarterback, but to me, I mean, you take away the team names and you show both the offenses. I feel like they're kind of identical. I mean, they're
Yeah.
they're very identical with each other. So I don't see a scenario where that happens. I think Dallas kind of handles this game pretty pretty lightly.
Yeah. I mean, I feel bad for Bryce Young, dude. Like,
Yeah.
his offensive line is horrid. I sent it in the group chat last week. Jonathan Mingo, I don't know what he's doing. He ran this route last
No.
week that had me befuddled. I just I don't know. I mean, the offensive line has been awful. Aquanu has not shown any signs of life. Him and Evan Neal have both been
Yeah.
terrible. And why not use that as a perfect segue to talk about Evan Neal's team? You want to talk about too many points? Look, I know they're the Giants, and I know the Giants can't score.
Yeah.
Is Washington really covering 8.5? All the money is on the Giants.
No.
Like this
Oh,
spread all week was 10, and now it's 8.5.
yeah. I know. I would not. I wouldn't
No.
touch that spread, but I think the biggest thing might be the under on this game because the last time they played against each other was 14-7. And that's when, the Giants had Tyrod Taylor as their quarterback, and now they got Tommy DeVito. Yeah, that's his name, Tommy
Yeah.
DeVito.
DeVito.
So yeah, the under is like I think the under is going to hit miraculously. I think it's going to be, that's what you hit this week on this game, and then that's it. That's the only thing you look
First
at.
game
You look
was
at the under.
14-7.
Yeah, yeah, no, this game might finish. I mean, listen, I think Washington could have a possibility where they come out early, put up a lot of points, and potentially might cover that. But division game, last game was super ugly. Um, I can't take Washington at 8.5. I can take the under because I like that under. I feel like this game should be the 33 points. I feel like this game should be the
Yeah,
33 points, and the Pittsburgh and Cleveland game should be 37. Like, what the
I
fuck is
agree.
going on here?
I
But
agree.
yeah, no, I think like I said, I think the Giants are in, I think they're kind of in the driver's seat right now to potentially get the first overall pick. And honestly, I think they might want it because I think they desperately want a new change, which is crazy because they just signed Daniel Jones to this big contract. But it kind of like the whole vibe right now with the Giants is let's go get Caleb Williams. Let's go get the whatever quarterback we feel most confident in. So yeah, I would lean towards the under on this game, but Washington 8.5, no. But I think this is a game where, like we've always talked about some of these kind of ugly games where you might throw something and then you don't watch it and you look at the final results. And that's it.
San Francisco minus 12 at home against Tampa Bay. I know I said what I said about San Francisco a few weeks ago. Lamb.
Lamb? Yeah,
Lamb. They're covering. They're covering.
yeah,
Minus 12. I think Baker Mayfield is going to be in hell on Sunday.
yeah.
I think that defense looks
Chase Young,
ferocious.
dude.
Yeah, I think the Chase Young
How'd y'all do it?
infusion
That
looks,
is so unfair, dude. Chase Young
I
and
think
bro, just crazy, man. Crazy.
I mean, dude, I don't know how to play this game other than to lay them. I really don't. I mean,
Yeah,
maybe the under, but San Francisco's offense looked back last week. Tampa Bay's defense has been pretty good all season, except for the Houston game.
yeah,
I don't know, man. I just feel like San Francisco is finding a rhythm, and that defense is back to looking ferocious. It was just one game. Um, but I mean, who other than I do think Tampa Bay does have one angle. The wide receivers should have an advantage against the San Francisco secondary. And if
yeah,
they were smart, that would be where they target San Francisco. However, San Francisco can just drop 8 and rush 3
yeah, yeah,
because
exactly,
Tampa Bay is not hurting you in the run game. They refuse to run the
exactly.
ball.
Yeah. And I Tampa Bay has been kind of an interesting team too coming into this year. They were kind of a team that I thought that they would be competing for the first overall pick, but now they're competing to win a very terrible division. So like you said, I think San Francisco's defense ultimately is going to be a little bit too much for this offense that's been kind of up and down this year. Um, I mean, listen, I would look at this game kind of the way that we talked about the Ravens and Baltimore game, not in the sense that San Francisco needs to win this game to stay above in their division, even though that division is pretty competitive with Seattle playing pretty well, and then you guys playing pretty well too. But I mean, for Tampa, as crazy as it sounds, there's still only one game out of the division in the South. They're sitting at 4-5 right now. And, here coming up soon, next, not this Sunday, but the following Sunday, the Saints and Falcons play, and that's going to be a huge division game that kind of might determine, who has kind of the driver's seat in that division. But I think even with that, with Tampa kind of having their backs against the wall in terms of competing for the division, I don't see them covering this. San Francisco's by far the better team. Defensively, they've been playing outstandingly. Brock Purdy looked really solid last week against the Jags. Give me San Fran to cover. I would probably lean towards the under just because I think this game can kind of get out of hand real quick and it just gets turned into a game where it gets off to a hot start for San Fran, and it just kind of just dies out towards the end, where Tampa can't really get back into the game.
So this is a very interesting one. Jets, Bills. Bills laying 7. Bills are laying 7 again. Why the Bills are continuing to lay touchdown plus, even at home. I struggle to understand it.
Against a division opponent too.
That being said, I think Buffalo's the side.
Oh no!
I think Buffalo's the side. I really do.
I can't do it.
I knew for a fact on Monday they weren't against Denver. I knew for a fact that they were not the side. But we're talking about a situation where Buffalo is pissed. The Jets have shown nothing to make you confident on offense at all. We have seen these two teams play already. And what better way to stamp yourself back into the division race than by taking care of business in a way that you should, given your roster on paper? You're at home. The Jets, Robert Saleh, like, the guy is too fucking nice, Brad. Like,
he
CJ Uzama being in that entire game on Sunday after he held to take back the Breece Hall touchdown and then held on another play that was a 20-yard gain. You got Jeremy Ruckert and Tyler Conklin on your roster. Sit his ass down.
Yeah.
Sit him down. Like, and that's just one thing. Zach Wilson continuing to get votes of confidence is mind-numbing. You have to try Trevor Siemian or Tim Boyle at this point. I'm serious.
You have to. I mean, like that's something I was about to, bring up. The way that the Jets continuously come out and support Zach Wilson game after game where he does not play well is. And listen, I understand you don't want it to turn into a scenario where the coaches start publicly kind of executing, Zach Wilson out there and have it to where, the players start seeing that and going, well, damn, if the coaches are going to start come out here and publicly, talking about Zach Wilson in a very negative way, why should we start doing it? Why should we start talking positive about him? Why should we start showing, that we have confidence in him? So I kind of understand that from kind of like a PR perspective where you don't want to come out and negatively talk about your starting quarterback, but you should have went out and gotten another quarterback before the trade deadline, or you should have went out and got someone in free agency to compete with him, once Rodgers went down. Listen, I know that the Jets are struggling right now, and this might come back to bite me, but what has Buffalo shown that they can actually cover any kind of fucking spread right now? They've been like, I think it's the opposite when we talked about Green Bay, where Green Bay hasn't really shown me anything to have confidence in picking them to cover games. Buffalo has the talent. It's just they haven't really been living up to it whatsoever. Like it's kind of insufferable watching them sometimes because they have talent everywhere on their roster. It's just they're not executing it well. And that's why I kind of I don't really buy it. A divisional game, the Jets played them really well the first time they played up against each other. And I mean, listen, Josh, I mean, we talked about it a little bit in a group chat, but Josh Allen, while I think he hasn't been playing as bad as others might suggest that he's playing, he has been having a problem with turnovers this year. It's been a very big thing. And the Jets have shown that if you turn the ball over on them, they're going to capitalize on that stuff. They're going to make sure that you kind of, you hate seeing them doing it. Because against the Eagles, they had a couple turnovers. They won that game. First time they played the Bills, they had a couple turnovers against Josh Allen. They won that game. So I don't really see. I mean, I know that the Bills just got rid of their OC, and Joe Brady is going to be their OC for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, it could be a tryout for him.
It will. It will. I mean, he's had some jobs in the past, but I guess, we'll see if he can bring some kind of new energy into this offense. But I don't know. I can't take the Bills just because, like I said, they've been so up and down. And I don't feel comfortable taking them against a divisional opponent. They didn't really play all that well against in the first meeting. So I don't know. Give me the Jets covering and probably the under on this one too.
I'm not betting it. I can't lay it with
No,
Buffalo,
no.
but I do feel like they're the side.
Yeah.
Seattle and the Rams. We have a fully healthy Matthew Stafford playing against Seattle at home in a game where they dominated the second half in week 1. It is obviously now week
Yeah.
11. So it's a lot different now. Things are a lot different. Teams are banged up. There's a whole year worth of tape. I still like the Rams. I still do. I think they're a terrible matchup for Seattle. I think they can get after Geno Smith. And I think these wide receivers can create separation. I mean, outside of Witherspoon, I mean, Reek Woolen, had a great rookie season, but what has he done this season? Like the Rams, I love the Rams in this spot, especially at about even money. I do feel like the public, I haven't seen it, but if I had to guess, I would feel like the public is all over Seattle. And I think that's a mistake.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. As crazy as it sounds, I'm with the Rams. I mean, listen, they're coming off their bye. Matthew Stafford's healthy.
That too.
And Seattle's kind of been an up and down team for me as well. They haven't really shown that they can control a game like I want them to do. Especially with the talent that they have. It's just sometimes they're just so inconsistent, where it's kind of, with some teams it's kind of insufferable to watch because they have the talent there. It's just sometimes they just can't really get it all together. And I mean, the same thing can be said about the Rams too. But I think ultimately, them coming off the bye, Stafford being healthy, they have a great receiving corp with, Cup and Puka, and even Tutu Atwell too. I just like the Rams a little bit more, and their defense is really sneaky good. I mean, I really like the Rams defense. They have a lot of young players on rookie contracts that are very cheap. So, that's something also to look forward to too is, we talked about the Rams. What happened there? Oh no.
Lamar is down.
Ooh. Ooh. Oh.
On the sideline, so we'll see, but he has not gotten up.
Yeah.
He's getting up.
Oh my gosh. Well, at least that's good. He's getting up. But yeah.
Didn't look too bad.
What was he? Oh, I see.
Looks
His
like
ankle.
a calf or an ankle.
Yeah, it looks like his
He was
ankle got.
already laboring on his ankle a little bit.
Yeah.
He looks all right.
Why does this happen, dude? I feel like every year.
He looks all right.
You hate it.
He looks fine.
Yeah, he looks all right. He's sitting
He's
down right
smiling.
now, but
Yeah, he's smiling.
he should
He's
be
all
good.
right. Let's go to
He should
Sunday
be good.
night, Brad. I'm actually
Yeah.
excited for this game.
I think this is going to be a really good game.
Bro, the winning streaks on both sides. Minnesota's won 5 in a row. Denver's won 3 in a row. These teams are, one thing has to break here. Like I alluded to in the pick 5, the Josh Dobbs aspect of things has been phenomenal. The fact that he was giving his cadence on the sideline to Bradbury and company against the Falcons and ended up going out and doing what he did in the second half, really the final 3 quarters of that game, along with what happened last week against your Saints. I mean, they controlled that game from pillar to post. I know they didn't really do much in the second half, but all of that being said, I'm kind of bullish on this Denver team right now. I think that Sean Payton has figured something out. They've very quietly, and Twitter and social media won't let you know it because it's easy to troll a team that allowed 70 points in a game. This defense, since that Miami game, has very quietly, I think they're only allowing like 18 or 19 points a game since that game.
Mhm.
They are very quietly finding their footing. Forced a bunch of turnovers. I know Buffalo gives the ball up like candy on Halloween, but right now, Denver to me looks like a team that I don't want to play. I mean, beating Kansas City a couple weeks ago, going on the road and beating Buffalo. I mean, as much as like we've all said about Buffalo, they're not the team that Vegas thinks they are. But
Yeah.
man, I gotta lean Denver in this spot. Minnesota traveling on the road, they're gonna play outdoors. It's probably gonna be cold. And I don't think Minnesota can run the ball. I don't even know if Denver can run the ball either, but
Yeah.
I do lean Denver in this spot.
Yeah, I think I do as well. Minnesota's been playing really well. Don't get me wrong. They're on a 5-game winning streak. And who would have thought, after Kirk Cousins went down? I mean, we talked about I kind of thought that they would be like, you know what, Cousins went down. Let's just start looking towards the future. Let's start, getting as much draft capital as we possibly could. Let's see what we can do, future wise. But no, I mean, they're sitting at 6-4 right now, looking very good. And Josh Dobbs has been playing really well too, not just with the Vikings, but also with the Cardinals as well this year. So, that's kind of a big surprising element this year that Dobbs has been playing really well. But I think ultimately Denver has better key wins. I know that Minnesota did beat I mean not the Vikings. Minnesota beat the Vikings. They beat the 49ers, but Denver, man, they've beaten the Chiefs, they've beaten the Bills. I think that they're starting to kind of get on a streak of, playing really good football defensively as well. Like you said, that was something that I talked about so much at the beginning of this year, that this defense that I thought was going to be top 10 again just wasn't playing up to their potential. And now they are. And now Russell Wilson is playing really well. The offense is starting to click a little bit better. The run game hasn't been there, but I think a lot of their running backs have been exceptionally well in the passing game. So that's also something to keep an eye out on, because Minnesota's run defense isn't all that great. It's really not that good. And I feel like this might be a game where Denver can kind of utilize that and kind of get that running game back. Because Sean Payton
Yeah.
loves the run game. Don't get me wrong. That
Oh yeah.
motherfucker loves the run game. So I'm sure he'll start out early trying to run it down their throat. But I kind of I like you said, I lean towards Denver on this one. I think I like what I've seen from them. I would probably lean towards the under, just because it's going to be a cold game. While Dobbs has been playing very well, I think a lot of what we saw in the second half against the Saints might be an indication of how he does against this Denver defense. But yeah, I love Denver. I think they've been playing really well, and they're kind of sneaking up into the conversation of could they potentially clinch a wild card spot,
Yeah,
which is going to be kind of
they've
fascinating to see.
they've got to win a couple more because, dude, that AFC wild card
It is.
that
It
AFC
is.
wild card race right now is
Yeah.
absolutely logged. Like it is
Yeah.
log jammed.
I mean, they do like I said, they do have key wins over the Chiefs and the Bills too. So if the Bills get themselves in a situation where they're going to be fighting, that's a loss against the Bills that they have. But
yeah,
yeah,
no, without a doubt. Lamar Jackson is, I believe, headed to the locker room.
yep, I see it right now. Ah, damn, dude,
No, he's not.
I hate it, dude. Oh,
No, he's not.
is
Yeah,
that
he
the?
is. Yeah, he is. No, he's trying to run it off. He's trying to run it off.
Yeah,
We'll see. Um,
they looked like they were getting the medical tin up, but then they brought it back
they
down.
did. He just came out of the tent. That's why he was in the
Oh,
tent.
okay, he came down. Okay,
Um,
hopefully he's all good, dude.
last game of the
I would
week.
hate to see that.
Last game of the weekend. This is arguably the game of the season. It is a Super Bowl rematch on Monday night between Philadelphia and Kansas City. We'll probably give our final thoughts on this game when Josh is with us on Monday, but real quickly we'll hit on it. I think the key in this game is very glaring. Who wins the battle between the Kansas City wide receivers and the Philadelphia defensive backs?
Yeah,
Philadelphia's defensive pass defensive pass game has been awful. They are 28th in the NFL in defending the pass. despite all of what we've seen with the shortcomings of Kansas City's wide receivers, Kansas City is still a top 5 passing offense in the league. I know a lot of that has to do with Travis Kelce, but I'm sorry. Philadelphia has not been playing their best ball in the last couple of weeks. I was very tempted to take Kansas City in my pick 5. And on Monday, if this stays at around 2.5, I'm going to bet Kansas City.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think this is going to be the toughest matchup for Philadelphia this year. I think, and surprisingly, Kansas. I feel like I know this might sound crazy to say, Kansas City's defense has been playing better than their offense. I feel like their defense has been really solid, like really good. Especially like when you look at games against the Dolphins where they held them to 13 points. Like, like I don't know. I'm really liking Kansas City. I think it is a it definitely does feel like a different Kansas City team than in years past because their offense hasn't been all that electric compared to what we've always known them to be. But like you said, they're still up there in passing yards in the league, scoring. They're kind of in the top 15. So like but I think defensively right now they've been playing extremely well. And, Rashid Rice, he's starting to kind of come into his own. Travis Kelce, he's a dog. So, that's going to be a matchup nightmare for the Eagles, especially with their linebacking group because their linebackers aren't all that great. And they have a lot of tough time, like a lot of tough times, matching up against tight ends. So, I kind of expect Kelce to have a pretty big game. But I think this game is going to be just as entertaining as the Super Bowl. I really do. I think this is going to be a really, really fun game. But ultimately, I think Kansas City right now is just the better team overall. I think they've been playing exceptionally well. While the Eagles, I feel like have they've been winning games, and that's always a great thing to do is win games because especially in the NFC where if they weren't winning these games and it would be kind of a tight race, but right now they're kind of sitting comfortable at the number 1 seed. But I think ultimately right now Kansas City's playing a little bit better. And Patrick Mahomes, I feel like you always got to lean with him. He's kind of getting into that conversation of whenever you play someone, you never bet against Patrick Mahomes, and I'm not going to do it this week. So yeah, I like Kansas City. I might like the over on this one too because I think there's a lot of opportunities for both teams to score a lot of points, the same way that the Super Bowl went down. So I don't know. I kind of like the over, and I kind of like Kansas City in this one.
It should be a good one, bro. I'm really excited
Yeah.
for that on Monday night. That's as good as it gets, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, hell, this week's going to be a really good week in terms of games, hopefully. I mean, we've had a couple weeks where we look at the schedule and we're like, wow, there's going to be a lot of games. And then they turn into blowouts or, they're duds. So hopefully, I mean, Lamar's back in the game. So that's a good sign. So,
Yep.
Yeah. I'm excited about this week.
Just to circle back to the pick 5, I had the Chargers, Miami team total over, the Broncos, the Cardinals, and the Rams. Josh currently has the Ravens, the Bears, the Packers, the Jaguars, and the Steelers. Brad took the Chargers in a bar fight with me and him versus Josh. The Giants team total under, Chicago, Detroit under, the Bengals, and also a lock agreement with Josh on the Steelers. We'll be back on Monday for episode 18, where we look back on these games and, hopefully for the first time in a few weeks, we'll have the full contingency. Until then, we'll sign off and we will see you next week.
Peace.